The electric vehicle revolution may have hit an unexpected roadblock, and Europe is at the center of it all. A shocking new change has shaken the foundations of the EV industry, leaving automakers scrambling to adapt. What could derail one of the fastest-growing markets in the world? Stick around to see how this decision could change the future of transportation forever. Is it really happening? Just a few years ago, Europe seemed poised to lead the electric vehicle revolution. Governments rolled out ambitious policies, promising billions in investments to build cutting-edge factories and dominate the global battery market. European companies, backed by industry giants and venture capital, were hailed as the future of clean energy, innovation, and economic strength. EVs were more than cars. They were a symbol of Europe's ability to reinvent itself and lead a greener, more sustainable future. But that dream is crumbling fast. Companies that once promised to deliver Europe's energy independence and secure its climate future are now declaring bankruptcy. Rising energy costs, stalling production, and intense competition from established global players have left Europe's EV industry reeling. Northvolt, a company once heralded as Europe's ticket to becoming a global EV leader, is just one of the casualties, and its collapse highlights a much deeper, systemic issue. The stakes couldn't be higher. Europe's ability to address critical issues like climate change and energy dependency hinges on the success of the EV sector. Falling behind in this race doesn't just weaken the region's economy, it also jeopardizes global efforts to curb emissions and transition to clean energy, and it's about to take the whole planet with it. Europe's grand EV vision. When Europe announced its ambitious plans to revolutionize the electric vehicle market, it was a bold step forward in tackling some of the world's most pressing challenges. The initiative aimed to position Europe not just as a participant but as a global leader in the clean energy transition. From cutting down greenhouse gas emissions to achieving energy independence, the strategy wasn't only an economic play, it was also deeply tied to climate goals and the long-term vision of a sustainable, competitive Europe. At the heart of Europe's EV revolution was a need to decarbonize transportation. For years, the transportation sector has been one of the largest contributors to greenhouse gas emissions, responsible for nearly a quarter of all emissions in the European Union. With the 2050 climate targets looming, reducing these emissions became an urgent priority. Electrifying vehicles seemed like the perfect solution. Cleaner cars powered by renewable energy could drastically cut carbon dioxide output while offering consumers cutting-edge mobility solutions. Beyond environmental concerns, the drive for energy independence played a critical role. Europe's reliance on imported fossil fuels has long been a geopolitical and economic vulnerability. The region heavily depends on foreign oil and gas from volatile suppliers, leaving it at the mercy of global market fluctuations and political tensions. By producing electric vehicles and their batteries locally, Europe saw an opportunity to secure its energy future while reducing its exposure to external pressures. This shift was supposed to reduce reliance on fossil fuels and establish a more resilient and self-sufficient energy ecosystem. To make this vision a reality, the European Union set its sights on becoming a dominant player in the EV market. Policymakers envisioned a thriving ecosystem where European-made batteries and electric cars would set the global standard. Massive investments were pledged to bolster the EV supply chain, covering everything from raw material extraction to battery production facilities and assembly lines. Leading the charge were companies like Northvolt, Volkswagen, and other automotive and tech heavyweights. Northvolt, in particular, became a symbol of Europe's EV ambitions. Founded in Sweden with significant backing from both private investors and government programs, the company promised to locally produce EV batteries that could rival those of Asia's dominant manufacturers like contemporary Amperex Technology Company Limited and LG Chemistry. Volkswagen, one of Europe's automotive powerhouses, also positioned itself at the forefront by channeling billions of euros into EV development and partnerships with battery suppliers. Producing batteries locally was key to Europe's strategy. At the time, the continent relied heavily on imports for most components and raw materials used in battery manufacturing. This dependency not only increased costs but also limited Europe's ability to compete with Asian manufacturers. By building a fully integrated EV supply chain, Europe hoped to establish itself as a leader in the global market while keeping jobs and profits within its borders. Building a strategic EV industry was supposed to go further than just reaching climate goals. It was also an economic opportunity. Europe saw EVs as a way to revive its manufacturing sector and counterbalance job losses in traditional automotive roles as the world moved away from internal combustion engines. A successful EV industry promised to create hundreds of thousands of jobs, ranging from mining and refining critical materials to producing batteries, assembling vehicles, and developing supporting software. Not just that, dominating the global EV market would provide significant benefits to Europe's GDP. By capturing a substantial share of this rapidly growing industry, Europe could strengthen its economic position in the face of intensifying global competition. Nations like China had already established themselves as dominant players in battery production, and the United States was ramping up its EV investments. Europe couldn't afford to fall behind, at least, that was the idea. To counter Asia's lead, Europe's approach included developing gigafactories to produce high-capacity batteries on a scale large enough to compete with Chinese and Korean manufacturers. Policymakers provided subsidies and tax incentives to encourage investment in these facilities. Meanwhile, agreements were forged to secure the supply of essential materials like lithium, nickel, and cobalt, which were critical for EV batteries. Plans were laid to recycle used batteries to reduce dependency on newly mined materials. Europe's push to dominate the EV market was strategic. Global leadership in the EV space would allow the region to set standards and influence the direction of the industry. If Europe could establish itself as a hub of EV innovation, other regions would have to follow its lead, from technology development to regulatory frameworks. The stakes were high, but so was the potential payoff. Despite these grand ambitions, cracks began appearing in the foundation of Europe's EV industry. Rising energy costs, global competition, and supply chain disruptions have turned what was once a promising vision into a crisis. As companies like Northvolt struggle to meet expectations, Europe's dream of becoming a global EV leader is starting to look like an uphill battle. A major concern is the decline in consumer confidence in EVs. Despite government incentives, sales are falling. In 2023, overall EV sales in Europe dropped by 4%, with Germany seeing a 20% decline after subsidies ended. Other countries like France, Norway, and Sweden also reported significant drops. By November 2024, EU battery electric vehicle registrations plummeted by 99.5%, and market share dropped drastically compared to the previous year. Rising electricity costs and inadequate charging infrastructure are major barriers discouraging potential buyers. These issues, along with concerns about charging station availability and high upfront costs, are slowing the EV transition. Building electric vehicles is just one part of the equation. Strong infrastructure is key to the industry's success. Unfortunately, Europe's EV infrastructure, including charging stations, grid capacity, and maintenance networks, can't keep up with the rapid growth in EVs. Production countries like Germany and France are facing bottlenecks, with inefficient charging stations causing long waiting times. Europe's aging power grids also struggle to meet increasing electricity demand. Meanwhile, the US is rapidly expanding its infrastructure. Europe must invest in grid upgrades and private sector involvement to remain competitive. Europe's green policies, which were originally designed to accelerate the shift to electric mobility, are turning into a double-edged sword for the automotive industry. Stringent emissions regulations and tight deadlines have placed huge financial pressure on automakers. Many companies are now warning that factory closures and job losses may be on the horizon if these ambitious targets aren't met. At the same time, Chinese EV manufacturers are gaining ground by offering much cheaper vehicles. European automakers, unable to match these prices without sacrificing quality, are finding it increasingly difficult to maintain profitability and market relevance. This intensifying competition could drastically reshape the European automotive landscape. The crisis facing Europe's EV industry has far-reaching consequences. Billions of dollars in investments are at risk, and Europe's leadership in the global EV market is under serious threat. More importantly, this crisis jeopardizes Europe's climate goals. The EV industry is essential to reducing carbon emissions and promoting renewable energy solutions. If the industry collapses or falters, Europe risks missing its environmental targets and falling behind in the global race for energy independence. The success of the EV sector is key to Europe's future sustainability, and without it, the continent faces significant setbacks in both economic and environmental progress. While the situation appears grim, there are opportunities for recovery. One promising solution is battery recycling. By investing in advanced recycling technologies, Europe can create a sustainable supply of critical materials and reduce its dependence on imports. This could help lower costs, cut emissions, and provide a lifeline to the struggling industry. Additionally, significant investments in infrastructure upgrades are necessary. Strengthening power grids and expanding charging networks can help rebuild consumer confidence and encourage the widespread adoption of EVs. However, these efforts require swift and coordinated action across the continent to make a meaningful impact. Northvolt's bankruptcy highlights the severe challenges facing the electric vehicle industry in Europe. However, the company's financial restructuring could offer a glimmer of hope. With $145 million in cash collateral and $100 million in debtor-in-possession financing, Northvolt has a chance to get back on track. The company is also working to secure $1 billion in additional funding, which could be crucial for its survival. The resignation of CEO Peter Carlson marks a pivotal moment for the company as it tries to navigate through this crisis. Northvolt's struggle will serve as an important indicator for the broader EV sector. If it can recover, it may signal that Europe's EV industry can still weather the financial pressures it faces. The global implications of Europe's EV crisis are significant. Analysts warn that Europe's slowdown could delay the global transition to electric vehicles, giving North America and Asia a competitive edge. The crisis also highlights vulnerabilities in fragmented supply chains, showing the need for more cohesive strategies to drive clean mobility forward. Europe's ability to recover from this crisis will not only shape its role in the global EV market but also influence the future of the green revolution. The outcome of this struggle will have far-reaching effects on the world's shift towards sustainable energy and transportation solutions. Hence, Europe is at a critical turning point, facing a huge challenge. The collapse of its EV industry is a wake-up call, showing the urgent need for reforms and clear strategies. Rising energy costs, supply chain problems, and concerns from consumers must be tackled to revive the sector. However, this crisis also offers a chance for Europe to rebuild. By investing in battery recycling, improving infrastructure, and creating smart policies, Europe must act quickly and work together to regain its position in the EV market. The future of clean transportation and Europe's role in it depends on the decisions made today. European factories are becoming more efficient, narrowing the cost gap with Asian competitors. Expanding investment in these areas could position Europe as a hub for cutting-edge EV innovation. Recovery from such a systemic failure requires collective action. European governments, industry leaders, and global partners must work together to rebuild the EV sector into a competitive and sustainable industry. A unified policy framework, spearheaded by the European Union, should prioritize the integration of national efforts. This framework can facilitate knowledge sharing, standardize regulatory environments, and pool resources for research and development and infrastructure. Similar initiatives have worked in other industries, such as aerospace, where collaborative approaches yielded significant global advantages. Engaging the private sector is equally important. Policies aimed at reviving investor confidence, such as risk-sharing mechanisms, tax breaks for green investments, and transparent subsidy programs, can attract the capital needed for long-term growth. Furthermore, global partnerships with automakers and battery producers can inject fresh expertise, diversify supply chains, and expand market opportunities. All that, if the UK is able to do it all right. What do you think? Leave your thoughts in the comments below, and if you like this video, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. See you in the next one.